This is Excel 2016, Module 7, Part 6. In this section, we're going to be looking at worksheet security. We need to understand the difference between a locked and an unlocked cell. We need to understand what protecting the worksheet will do and what protecting the workbook would do. And then also, if you have highly sensitive information, we need to understand how we can encrypt the workbook so that if it is intercepted, for example, during an email, that the information cannot be gained access to. So let's start out by looking at locked cells versus unlocked cells. For this, let's get back into our workbook. We want to use the winter workbook, and you should be on the receipt worksheet. Now, if you look at this worksheet, we have a section up here where we're entering information. We've been putting all of our rules and input messages to help the user with that. We have a section over here that give us the names that are being used for our lookups. We don't want the user to be able to change these names. We also don't want them to be able to change the fees or the discounts because that will affect what the customer is going to be paying. And then we have all of the information down here in these two sections that we're going to be using later on with our macros. And if an end user were to edit the formulas or other information, then the information might not calculate correctly, and it also might not print correctly on the receipt that we want to give our customer. So we want to ensure that the only area on this workbook that the user can change is this range of cells right here in light blue. So for that, we have to look at whether a cell is locked or unlocked. So a locked cell does not allow you to input information into it. An unlocked cell will allow you to make changes. So it might shock you to learn that every cell in Excel defaults locked. But the reason that we can make changes to the cells, even though they default to have a locked status, is because until we go into the Review tab and protect our worksheet, that locked versus unlocked does not do anything. So if we're going to try to make it so that people cannot change certain areas of our workbook or our worksheet, we need to first unlock the areas that we want those users to be able to change. If you simply come over here and choose to protect the sheet, then no cells on the sheet will be able to be entered or changed. So the first thing we have to do is unlock the area we want them to have access to. So I'm going to highlight the area B3 all the way down to B12. And on the Home tab, I am going to come over here to Format and choose the very bottom option that says Format Cells. Once you get that dialog box open, by the way, you also could have opened it by these little corner buttons in each of these groups. Would have opened this same dialog box. The only thing different would have been which tab was the open tab when it opened up the window. We're going to go all the way over to protection. And you notice locked is selected. So if I want them to be able to change these cells, I need to uncheck that box. These cells are now unlocked. Then I'm going to click OK. And next, I'm going to go over and I am going to protect the worksheet. So that's done on the Review tab. And I'm going to choose Protect Sheet. Now notice a couple of things. It will allow you to choose whether or not the user can even click in a locked cell. So I don't care if they click there. I just don't want them to be able to change it. And if it's locked, they cannot change it. If it is unlocked, they will be able to type information. We also can add a password. Be careful with this because you have to remember the password. So if you were to lock your worksheet with a password and then you forgot the password, you cannot unprotect that worksheet without that password. So therefore, you would not ever be able to change any of the information in the locked cells. So for example, if the registration fee for the activity fee, if that changed, you would not be able to change that number. You would have to start all over and create your workbook again. So be careful with the passwords. In this case, we are not going to use one. Now I will tell you, it's kind of silly not to use a password if you are really concerned with someone changing the information. Because if they can find this button, notice, they can just click it and now it is back unprotected. Okay? So if you truly have a concern, you probably want to put a password on there. But you want to make sure it's a password no one else can figure out, but you will remember. All right, so now when I look at this sheet, okay, I've typed on a cell. I'm going to click on D4. And if I try to change this name to last Friday, when it's hit the L, it gives me an error message and it says you cannot make that change. However, if I come over here and said this person's phone number was really an area code 317, it will allow me to change that. I'm going to go ahead and change it back. I'm going to undo that typing. So notice it will let me type in these cells, but if I try to type something anywhere else, it will not allow me to make those changes. Another form of protection that I can do is I can protect my workbook. So we're going to come over here and we are going to choose to protect the workbook. When I do that, you'll notice it lets me protect the structure. Windows is an option that Excel used to have in earlier versions. I do not know why they haven't gotten rid of that option, but it is not an option in the newer versions. So it's going to be grayed out all the time. Structure means I cannot move a worksheet. I cannot rename a worksheet. I cannot delete a worksheet, nor can I add a new worksheet. And again, you have the same option to put a password. So I would say if you are truly concerned about someone changing those worksheet structures, the layout of the worksheets, then you probably do want to put a password. But again, you need to make sure it's something you can remember. Now, finally, I do want to point out that none of those options keep someone from opening the file and viewing the data. So, if your concern is that you have sensitive information and you don't want anyone else to be able to open it, neither of those options are going to help you. If you're going to be emailing a workbook and it has sensitive information in it, or simply you don't want anybody to be able to open it and look at it, maybe it has payroll numbers in it, then you're going to want to come here to File on your Backstage view, and you're going to want to choose this option here, Protect the Workbook, and you're going to encrypt it with a password. I'm just going to type the password here as the word password, all lowercase. It makes me re-enter it so I can make sure I didn't have any typing errors. And now it is encrypted. So I'm going to go ahead and close this workbook. Save the changes. And now I am going to open it back up. When I open it this time, it asks me for the password. So the user cannot even open it unless they can provide the password. Whoops, I typed it in wrong. So I'm going to open it again. And then it will open. Now, to show you how this will work to protect you, let's say I am in this preview pane view, so that if, let's say, I went into Photos and clicked on a picture, shrink this over here. I could click on a picture and it would preview it over here. Watch what happens if I go back to where my Excel video is stored. You'll see that it won't even display it in the preview without me entering that password. Once I enter the password, then it would allow me to preview it. So I'm going to go ahead and open it back up. Okay, so again, if I go here to protect the workbook, if I want to take that off, I can simply remove the password. It is no longer encrypted, and it is no longer going to be preventing opening. The options under Review protecting the workbook, or protecting the sheet. I can unprotect both of them. Those will not prevent me from opening. Okay, you do need to remember one of the key things is you have to select the cells you want the user to be able to open or edit. Go into your dialog box, go to Protection, and unlock them. Only unlocked cells will be accessible once the worksheet is protected. If you do have a password, when you protect the sheet, it will not allow you to unprotect it unless you type that password in. Okay? So that's all there is about worksheet security. And we will continue on with some more features in Module 7.